Welcome back, everybody. We're diving deep today into James chapter 2, verses 1 through 26.
Yeah. This is a really meaty section. A lot to unpack here.
There is. And it's super relevant, even though it was written a long time ago.
Oh, absolutely.
So, right off the bat, James hits us with this scene. A rich guy walks in, all decked out, gets the best seat in the house. Poor person comes in, looking a little rough around the edges.
Yeah.
And they basically get shown the door. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like they're not even worthy to be there. It's
Right.
like that, yeah.
Exactly. So James calls this out. He says, you're showing partiality.
hmm
And what's interesting is it's not just like bad etiquette, right?
Right.
It's deeper than that. It's like this fundamental contradiction.
Yeah. It's a betrayal of what it means to follow Christ because it goes against the character of God. God doesn't play favorites.
Right. We should be trying to be like God. Yeah.
Exactly. So shouldn't we be doing the same thing?
Yeah. So it's about our actions matching up with, what we say we believe.
Yes.
And actually, James takes it a step further. He says, God actually has a preference.
He does, yeah.
And it's not for the rich and powerful.
No, not at all. God's preference, you could say, is for the poor. He actually chooses the poor to be rich in faith.
And inherit his
Yeah.
kingdom.
Yes.
It's kind of like the opposite of how the world usually works,
It is. It flips the script completely.
Yeah.
We tend to think, worldly success, money, appearances, that's what matters. But God, he's looking at the heart, humility, faith. That's what's important to him.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about how do we apply this idea of partiality today? Like, we may not be literally assigning seats,
Right.
but we see this play out in subtle ways.
Yeah. Like, think about it. Do we maybe subconsciously favor people who are more like us? Similar backgrounds, beliefs, even like same taste in music. Or, we might give more weight to someone's opinion if they've got like a fancy title or something, even if someone else has, a really valuable perspective to share.
Right. Makes me think about, have I ever dismissed someone's idea because, of their job, education, how they were dressed? I think we're all guilty of this sometimes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And James would say, this kind of partiality, it's a violation of that royal law, love your neighbor as yourself.
Right.
And he brings it all the way back to God's law, saying breaking one part is like breaking the whole thing. It's really serious business to him.
Yeah, like that verse, for whoever keeps the whole law and yet stumbles at just one point is guilty of breaking all of it.
Yes, exactly.
Like pulling on a thread in a tapestry. It affects the whole thing.
That's a great analogy, yeah. James is not playing around here. He's urging us to really take a good look at ourselves, and see, are we living out that love and impartiality that Christ calls us to? He even talks about judgment without mercy for those who show no mercy.
Ooh, that's heavy. So we've got partiality. That's the first big topic. Then James jumps into another one, faith and works. He asks this question: what good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save them? I feel he's really getting at something here.
Oh, absolutely. This is the age-old question, right? Is it enough to just believe in God? Or does real faith require action? He's not saying we earn salvation by doing good deeds, but he is saying that genuine faith, it's going to produce good works.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you can't separate the two.
Right. And he uses this very vivid example, like, imagine telling someone who's cold and hungry, like, hey, go get warm, go eat.
All right.
But you don't actually do anything to help them.
Yeah, it's just empty words. There's no substance. It's all talk and no action.
Right. And then he goes even further. He compares it to the belief of demons, like even demons believe God exists.
You're right. But that doesn't save them, does it? There's a huge difference between just knowing something intellectually and having this real life-changing faith.
So it's not enough to just know in your head that God's real. True faith, it changes us. It motivates us to actually do something, to love, to serve.
It compels us to act.
To act. And to illustrate this even more, he brings up, some pretty big figures from the Bible.
Oh, yeah, the heavy hitters.
Abraham, Rahab. So with Abraham, he reminds us about his willingness to sacrifice his son Isaac. Like, talk about radical obedience. That showed his faith was the real deal.
And think about this. This happened before Isaac was even born. So Abraham was basically saying, okay, God, I trust you, even if I don't understand. That's crazy faith.
Wow. And then you have Rahab, who lived a very different life, but she hid the Israelite spies. That took a lot of guts.
It did. And that showed her trust in the God of Israel, even though she wasn't, from that background at all.
And both of them were, like, justified by their actions, meaning their faith became real through what they actually did.
Yes. It wasn't just a concept in their head. It was a lived-out reality.
So he's saying works are the proof of genuine faith, right? They're inseparable. He even uses that analogy, just as a body without a spirit is dead, so is faith without works.
Wow, powerful imagery. It paints such a clear picture. Real faith. It's alive. It's not just some mental exercise. It's about having this relationship with God that changes everything.
This has been so thought-provoking already. We've got partiality and this idea that real faith requires action. But there's still so much more to dig into in James chapter 2.
It's interesting to think about, like, the context James was writing in. These early Christians, they were facing persecution, all kinds of social pressure.
Right, their faith was really being tested, not just theoretical stuff.
Exactly. So showing favoritism to the wealthy, that might have been a way to, protect themselves, gain some status, avoid being ostracized, or even worse.
Yeah, like a survival tactic almost.
Yeah. But James is calling them out, saying, hey, you got to rise above that, live by a higher standard, even when it's hard. It's like, be countercultural. Don't just go along with what everyone else is doing.
He's saying true loyalty is to God, not to, like, fitting in or what's popular at the moment.
Exactly. And that's where this whole faith and works thing comes in so strong. It's not enough to just say, oh, yeah, I believe. You got to show it.
Right. Your actions have to back it up, even when there's a cost.
Yeah. It's about standing up for what's right, even when it's tough.
So connecting this back to the big picture, it's not just about, like, avoiding bad stuff, like partiality.
Yeah.
But actively doing good things.
Yes. Proactive, not just reactive. It flows from your faith.
It's about that transformation, right? Where your actions line up with what you believe.
A transformed life, absolutely.
And that starts with, like, looking inward, right?
Yeah.
At your own heart.
Oh, yeah. It's easy to get caught up in just going through the motions, trying to impress people. But James is getting at something much deeper.
He's asking, are you really living this out? Or just talking a good game?
Yeah.
Are your actions matching up with your beliefs? Like we said, even demons believe in God, but it doesn't change them. So what does a changed life look like then? What are some of those works that show real faith? He doesn't give us a list exactly, but...
Right. But he does give some examples, like caring for the poor, the needy, showing hospitality to strangers, speaking up against injustice, stuff that requires you to actually get out there and engage with the world, step outside your comfort zone.
Not just stay in your own little bubble.
Exactly.
You gotta, like, put your faith into practice. Move it from your head to your hands and feet.
Yes. It's not passive. True faith, it's active, engaged, making a difference, trying to bring God's love and justice into the world.
Right. It's not about scoring points with God.
No, not at all.
It's about reflecting his character, letting his love work through you to touch other people's lives.
Yes, exactly. It's about becoming more like Christ in how you live, how you treat others, how you respond to what's going on around you.
It's like your actions become this language. Speaks louder than words ever could.
That's a great way to put it. A language that people can understand, even if they don't share your beliefs.
And that can actually change things.
It can. Think about it. One act of kindness, taking a stand for what's right, it can have a ripple effect. You might never fully realize the impact.
Makes me think about how I can be more intentional, line up my actions with my beliefs. It's easy to get caught up in the busyness of life and forget about other people.
It is. But that's where we have to remember, James says, faith without works, it's like a body without a spirit, it's dead. Your actions, they breathe life into your faith. They give it meaning.
Okay, so practical steps. How do we actually put this into action? It can feel overwhelming, like where do you even start?
It can. But remember, even small things make a difference. Start with what's right in front of you, the people you see every day. Volunteering at a local soup kitchen, donating to a good cause, or just being more intentional about showing love and kindness to your family, your neighbors, people at work.
That's a good point. You don't have to wait for some big opportunity. Start where you are.
Exactly, with whatever resources you have. Even if it seems small, take those little steps of faith and trust that God can use them.
Right, be faithful in the little things.
He can multiply your efforts in ways you can't imagine.
And those little things, they might inspire someone else to do the same. Create this ripple effect of love and compassion, one person at a time.
It's a beautiful thought, isn't it? Being part of something bigger than yourself. Making a difference in the world.
It is. Gives me hope that even with all the darkness, we can be part of the light, be agents of change.
And that starts with each of us taking those steps, Putting our beliefs into action,
Yeah.
letting your light shine so others can see it, reflecting the love of Christ.
It's been a really insightful look at James 2 so far. We've covered partiality, this connection between faith and works, this call to a changed life.
It's definitely a passage that makes you think, look at your own life, see how you can do better.
Yeah, are we really living this out? We're just talking about it.
And it's a journey, not always easy.
But we're not alone. We have each other. We have the Bible. And most importantly, we have God's grace. It's been quite a journey through James too, hasn't it? Really gets you thinking about what it means to, really live out your faith, not just talk about it.
It does, and it's a message that still hits home today, just as much as it did back then for those early Christians James was writing to. It's that reminder that faith without works is just empty. It's meaningless.
Yeah, and I think it's good to remember, this isn't about earning your salvation. We talked about that before. Salvation, that's a gift, not something you can, work your way into.
Exactly. James is very clear. We're saved by grace, not by anything we do. But he's also saying that real, genuine faith, it's going to lead to good works, naturally. It's like, a tree and its fruit. A healthy tree, it's going to bear fruit. You can't have one without the other.
So it's not about, checking off boxes, doing good deeds to impress God or anything. It's more about letting your faith actually change you from the inside out, so that what you do, it lines up with what you believe. It's about becoming more like Christ in how you live, how you treat people, how you respond to the needs around you.
Absolutely. And that can be tough sometimes, can it? It's easy to get wrapped up in your own little world, forget about other people, focus on, just being comfortable yourself. But James, he's pushing us to be more deliberate about it. Make compassion and serving others a way of life.
And he doesn't just leave it vague either. He gives some real-life examples of what that looks like visiting orphans and widows in their distress. That's a powerful image.
It is. Reaching out to those who are hurting, the marginalized, the ones who are often overlooked.
Seeing the need and actually doing something about it.
Yeah.
With love and compassion. He also talks about showing hospitality to strangers, which, back then in the early church, that was a big deal. Opening your home, your heart, to people who are different from you, who might not have anywhere else to go.
Mm-hmm.
So these are all things we can do right here, right now, to put our faith into action, make a difference, starting with our own communities, our own families. It doesn't have to be this huge grand gesture. It's about those everyday moments, being faithful in the small things.
Exactly. And these actions, they're not just random acts of kindness either. They come from the character of God. He's compassionate, generous, just. So when we do these things, we're reflecting God's image to the world. We're being his hands and feet.
That's a beautiful way to think about it. Our actions, they become a testament to how powerful faith can be. When it's real, it changes things. It shows the world what it means to follow Christ. Not just with words, but by what you do.
This has been a really great discussion, diving deep into James 2. Makes you think about, how's my own faith showing up in my life? What is God calling me to do? Where can I step up and take action?
Me too. And it's something we should keep coming back to, I think, checking in with ourselves. Because faith isn't a finish line. It's a journey. We keep learning, keep growing.
And you don't have to be perfect. It's about progress, not perfection. We're all going to mess up sometimes, make mistakes. But the key is to keep moving forward, keep seeking God, keep trying to live a life that reflects his love and grace.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into James 2. We hope it's giving you some food for thought and inspired you to put your faith into action. Let it shine. The world needs it.